and welcome to DyannBakes. Before I get started today, I wanted to share some really fun news with you. Libsyn, the company that hosts our website, they've chosen DyannBakes as one of their favorite podcasts, and they're featuring us on their podcast, Libsyn Sound Off. So here's their website, and go visit and check it out. It's really a great website, and thanks to all the guys at Libsyn for recognizing the DyannBakes team, and thanks to all of you for increasing our viewership and really bringing us to the forefront. Okay, here I have all the ingredients for today's podcast, which is about cheesecake. And the recipe that we're going to make today is called a no-frills cheesecake and comes from Master Chef Nick Malgeri, who is the head of the Institute of Culinary Education, my alma mater. And it really is the perfect name for this recipe because it's easy, it's simple, and it comes out creamy and perfect every single time. Here are the ingredients. We have cream cheese, granulated sugar, eggs, vanilla, and lemon juice. Now, in order to make a cheesecake that has a nice consistent texture to it, it's really important that you don't incorporate a lot of air. And the way that you accomplish that is that, most importantly, your cream cheese is at room temperature. So this has been sitting out since this morning. And what you'll see is that I'm going to mix the cream cheese with the sugar and take it off the mixer a number of times because it's important that it gets nice and smooth and that the sugar gets incorporated. So here we go. The recipe for this, as you've seen before, we have on the website. It's in a PDF form, so you can print it out. It's a lot of cream cheese. This is going to make 2 8-inch cakes. So, now this is a little messy, but you have to bear with it. Put my beater on. So now I'm going to add the granulated sugar, and the sugar acts as an abrasive and helps the cream cheese get smooth. So I'm going to lift this up, turn it on. Now, as I said, you have to scrape it down because it really gets stuck. See, look, it's all stuck on the beater. And you have to scrape it off. It takes a little time, but it's really worth it. So this step is finished. The sugar's been incorporated, the cream cheese is nice and smooth, and now I'm going to add the lemon juice and the vanilla. After I finish adding these, I'm going to scrape it down again, just like we did before. The next step are the eggs. And you want to add them 2 at a time. And back to the theme of not incorporating a lot of air, add them in and mix it only until they're just absorbed. You don't look to get in air and get it all fluffy, because then what happens is your batter has too much air in it. When you bake it, it will actually souffle in the oven, and then when it cools, it collapses. I'm sure you've all seen cheesecakes where they look like they're just big craters. Well, that's what we want to avoid. You want a cheesecake that's nice and level and nice and smooth on top. So I have 6 eggs here, and I'm going to add the first 2. Now I'm going to add 2 more eggs. And mix again until they're just incorporated. And the last 2. Cheesecake really isn't a cake, it's a custard. So that's, if you keep that in mind, that's the kind of batter that you're making. It's really not a cake batter. The thing you have to keep in mind is adding the eggs will not get rid of your lumps. So you have to make sure that the batter is smooth when it's at the cream cheese stage. If you add the eggs and it's lumpy, then you're just going to have lumpy batter. back on the mixer for just a moment longer. I can't see. There we go. Okay, so now this is done. And I didn't show you before, I forgot. So here I have a prepared pan. This is a springform pan. Usually in cheesecake recipes, they recommend that you use a springform pan, but you don't have to. You can use a regular pan. And what I have here on the bottom is a very shallow crust that is made up of ground pecans and a little granulated sugar and a little butter. The butter acts as the glue. And then you press it into the bottom of the pan and bake it in the oven maybe about 10 minutes on a very low temperature so it sets. And now we're going to pour the batter into our prepared pan. This, as I said before, is a lot of batter. It's for 2 8-inch cakes, so we're not going to use all the batter for this pan here. Where that comes off. A little more. You want it to be about 1/4 of an inch from the top of the pan. Isn't it pretty? It's really a delicious batter. Delicious cake. Okay. I'm gonna smooth this just a little. You want to give it a couple of slams because this will make air come up to the top and you'll see little air bubbles and you can pop those easily. So it's better not to have them in the cake. There we go. Very nice. Okay, now one of the biggest problems with cheesecake is that they crack. And so how do you avoid that? When a cheesecake bakes, the moisture in it evaporates. That's what causes the crack. So the way that you can get around it is by baking it in a water bath. It's called a bain-marie. Let me show you how you do that. It's easy. You just take a pan and you put your cake pan on the pan and then fill this pan up to a certain point with water. Now I'm going to put this in the oven, 325-degree oven, nice low oven, nice slow temperature, because this is a very delicate cake. And then when it's in the oven, I'm going to fill it with water. The idea of putting water in the pan and then carrying it over to the oven isn't the smartest thing. And so now I'm going to add the water to make the bath, and that's going to create steam and moisture in the oven, and that's going to keep the cake from cracking. Okay, so now we have our final product, our beautiful no-frills cheesecake. And let me backtrack for you just a little bit. This was baked in a 325-degree oven in a water bath that created a lot of steam, a lot of humidity in the oven. And as you can see, this cheesecake has not cracked. It has a beautiful, smooth surface. It also is not browned, which is an important thing for a good cheesecake. You don't want it to be overcooked, and sometimes when it's browned, that's a sign of that. I didn't explain to you when is a cheesecake done. And when you take it out of the oven, what you need to do is give the pan a jiggle. And when you do that, the middle of the cake should have a little bit of wiggle to it. The outside edges should be firm, but the center should have some jiggle to it. And that makes perfect sense because, as I mentioned before, a cheesecake is a custard. And you cook it to that stage, and then you put it in the refrigerator, and that's when it really sets up. So that's what I've done with this cake. This was baked the other day, and it was in the fridge for at least 24 hours overnight. And it gels up, and it just comes out beautiful. Thanks for watching. Give it a try and let us know how you do. Drop us a note on DyannBakes.com. We'd love to hear from you.